Finally, the bugle is playing for a handicapping horse racing show. That is the greatest song in the history of music. Today is Friday. It is Breeders' Cup weekend. Championship Saturdays tomorrow. Today on Friday, we have 4 giant races. This is very, very exciting. It's all going down on Del Mar Racetrack in California. The post time for the very first championship race is 2:25 Pacific time, 5:25 Eastern time. We will be going live at 5 o'clock Eastern time, 2 o'clock Pacific time, and we will be rocking all of these races. I have $600 in my HPI bet account, and I'm going to try to turn it into $10,000 over the weekend. The only way you can do that is by pick 4s and exotics. Another thing about the Breeders' Cup weekend is you don't need favorites. Long shots come in all of the time, and there's all these intangibles that you have to think about and worry about in the Breeders' Cup. First and foremost, it's the Euros, the European horses coming over. It's very hard to figure out who's going to run well, who's going to run poorly. Our turf is much harder than their turf, and in Europe, it's all turf. Very few dirt tracks in Europe. In North America, we're mainly dirt tracks. So what I've done in the past, and it's really been successful, is I put a line through all of the European horses that are coming over, except in the turf championship. Those are older turf horses, 4-, 5-year-old, 6-year-old turf horses that are the best turf horses in the world. The young ones coming over, I put a line through them. It's so hard for them. They come over on a plane, then they're put in quarantine, then they're on these hard tracks that they're not comfortable with. So in these 4 races, we have 2 that are juvenile turf races, one for the boys, one for the girls. These are 2-year-old, they're baby horses, and there's a lot of volatility. It makes no sense to take the favorite. It's very easy to not take the favorite with the boys. With the girls, it's a little harder. Now, I don't like the big favorite, but the second favorite coming over from Europe is a very classy horse, and it's going to be tough to beat her, but we are going to try, because we're just not going to trust the Euros coming over except for that one race, which is tomorrow. So then we have the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, which is older horses. I have a horse that I'm in love with at 6-1. I put this horse out on the SBR forum, and I took a lot of heat. People do not believe in this horse, but I do. And then we have the Breeders' Cup Distaff. This is the championship race for female horses in the world, and it's so competitive this year. Another thing about these races is there's more talent in them than I remember, and I hammer the Breeders' Cup every year, and these are, especially this Distaff, this Dirt Mile. This Dirt Mile is usually, because it's only $1 million for the Dirt Mile, and there's $2 million for the Breeders' Cup Distaff. It's $6 million for the Classic tomorrow, but usually there's only a couple great horses in the Dirt Mile, and this year there's just a ton. So another thing we have to realize is that the European horses coming over don't use Lasix, and it's a drug that helps horses breed that we use in North America. So a lot of these horses are going to be first-time Lasix. Some horses really explode when they can breathe easier, and some horses it just doesn't matter, and that's a difficult thing to break down and figure out. So the key to all this will be, I will break down these horses, and if you like a horse, we don't need to like the same horse. Like when I break down a race, somebody just listening to me breaking it down can make more money than me, can make a better bet than me. So don't feel like you need to take the horse that I like. Whatever information I give you, feel free to run with that information and run with that horse. Okay, so let's take care of fucking business. First, we have the first championship race is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. There is a favorite in out of North America, and that is here, Rushing Fall, the 11, with J.J. Castellano as the jockey and Chad Brown as the trainer. This is the combination that won last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Rushing Fall is the favorite at 7-2. She just ran in Keeneland on a mile and 16th on the turf in the Jessamine Grade 3. And look, she was 11th by 8 lengths, 12th by 9 lengths, 9 by 6 lengths, and then her turn of foot was explosive, and she was given an 84 Beyer figure. Now, with the Beyer figures, the old handicappers don't believe it's a speed figure that we give horses, and it has to do with not only the speed of the horses, but also the speed of the track, because some tracks run different. There's always track biases. Sometimes it's you know, close to the rail, sometimes it's on the outside, and we have to figure out the bias as we go along. And this meet just started at Del Mar, so we're not going to have a real keen idea of what the biases are. Let's start going through the horses in this race. So the favorite's Rushing Fall, and she is the best last race buyer. And that's just a simple way to give a horse a favorite where she might not necessarily deserve one. She was well back early. Obviously, it was an incredible turn of foot. I think those were much easier horses to get by. I don't find it too difficult to leave Rushing Fall alone. What I find very difficult is to leave the European favorite alone. Her name is Happily. She's trained by Aidan O'Brien. Aidan O'Brien is a superstar in the horse racing game, but he's just one of 19 with first-time European import since 2016. So that makes it a little easier to stay away from Happily. But she just beat the boys in a giant Grade 1 race in France. That field included Massar. Massar is in this race. Massar is the favorite in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, and Happily just took him out with pretty much ease, and that is very concerning. If this race was happening in Europe, clearly Happily would be the choice, but what we're going to do is we're going to not believe that Happily will win this race because of the difficulty it is for these horses coming across the pond over to North America. So in the Juvenile Turf, so the big thing that people are a little hesitant with Happily is that she missed her last race due to a temperature. It is a little concerning. It was just a temperature, they claim, and not a big deal, but you don't want that happening within a couple months of your horse running, especially a horse you're going to invest heavily in. The big thing about Happily here in race 6 is she's got this great post. She's on Lasix for the first time in her life, which could be very advantageous, and she's the second post. And she's got Moore and Aidan O'Brien. These are superstars in the horse racing world, and it's tough to fade Happily. But let's keep running down. So first we're going to just start with the European horses, and then we're going to move on. The next European horse that is quite good is the number 10, September. Now, she has lost twice to Happily. Here is September right here. So September will also be a first-time Lasix user. You can see she lost to Happily here. She came third. She was almost 4 lengths back of Happily in this one. And then here, Happily didn't win this race. A horse named Magical won it. And she was 3 1/4 lengths back of Magical. So just 2 lengths back of Happily. She's a good horse, and now you're getting a better number. She's 6-1. You're getting a better number because she's lost to Happily. Again, I'm just gonna forget that these Euro. I'm just put a line through the Euro, and it's dangerous. But the reason why people really like September is she has an absolute star pedigree. It's some of the best. So her dad is Japanese star Deep Impact, and he's just an absolute star in the horse racing world. And then her dam here, her mom is Peeping Fawn, and Peeping Fawn was a 4-time Grade 1 winner over in Europe, and that's just a superstar parents, and that's why she's so highly regarded. Now, a big thing here is that Ryan Moore could have rode September. Ryan Moore had the choice, and he chose to ride Happily simply because Happily is a better horse. So that's a good sign, knowing that at least Happily is better than September. We have another European here called Juliet Capulet. She's coming out of the 13 hole. That is a very tough spot to come from. When you're that far outside, it's just going to be very tough for Juliet Capulet to come over. Now we've got Frankie Dettori, just a championship European rider, and John Gosden. These are all-world trainer jockey combinations. And when we break down Juliet Capulet a little more, not only the post is a problem, but the distance is a cause for concern. But this is a very talented horse coming off a Grade 2 win in impressive fashion. When we take another look at her quickly, you can see that she's not been running a mile. She ran 6.5 furlongs and then 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. So there is a question about whether she'll be able to stretch out. She's at 12-1, so you're getting a nice spot. But I, again, am going to leave this talented European horse out of the mix. Now we come to American horse that I like quite a bit. This is a horse named Capella Temptress, right here. Originally from Ireland, has come over and raced in Canada in Woodbine on September 17th in the Nantalma Grade 1 Stakes. Now that's a slow bear, but the track was running slow that day, or Beyer, and the track was running slow that day, and she had a lot of traffic. She was seventh by 5 lengths, and then she started making her move. She bumped, finally found room, and came right through. I think a very interesting thing about Capella Temptress is that she was not on Lasix in her first race here. So now Bill Mott has taken over training, a Hall of Fame trainer, and has put her on Lasix, and Joel Rosario is still riding her. This is very intriguing at 6-1. Extremely intriguing. Now, I am not taking Capla Temptress to win, but I know some horse racing experts that are taking Capla Temptress to win. Now let's keep rolling through. Now I like Capla Temptress to be there, and at this point, she's my 4th choice, but I'm very concerned about this horse. Next up, we have the number 12, Dixie Moon. Dixie Moon, her father won the Breeders' Cup, and she's going to be right on the pace. She's going to create the pace. She's going to run people are going to have to try and catch her. She is the daughter of Curlin, and a phenomenal horse, and it's got the Silva riding her, and she's come down from Canada with 3 horses from Woodbine. At first she was on the synthetic, and then she moved over to the turf. She's looked great in both. She was in that Natalma that Capla Temptress won, and Capla Temptress had to get past Dixie Moon, and Dixie Moon ran a 23-3 opening quarter, and that's fast on turf, and she'll try to get away with a tiny bit slower. I don't think she'll be able to. But she was in that race, and people believe that she's going to go to the lead, try to go all the way, and might be able to do it. I don't think. I think her buyers are too slow. In her last race, that she looked really good, and she only beat Ontario-bred horses, but she beat Ontario-bred colts. She went against the boys and beat them. Next horse is number 5, Ultima D. She'll show a lot of speed, but I believe that distance is a big issue for her. Now we're going to get into 2 horses that I really like, and they're come attached with crooked numbers. First off, at 12-1 is a horse that I'm going to take to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. It's a horse here named Best Performance, with Jose Ortiz, a phenomenal jockey, and Christophe Clement, a great trainer. Now, Best Performance has looked very good. Now, she lost to significant form, who's also in this race, and who I believe is going to be a very tough horse to beat, and may win this race at 8-1. But I'm going to take Best Performance at 12-1. I'm intrigued by a couple things. First, I just watched that Miss Grillo, this Grade 3 stakes race that she just ran at Belmont, and where she lost to significant form, and she had to go 6 wide, almost all the way around. And then the big thing that jumped out at me was Lasix. She's doing first-time Lasix. After 5 races, it could be that Christophe Clement was waiting for the right time to give her the Lasix, to give her that boost. That's what I'm going to bank on here in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. I'm going to bank that Best Performance will have her best performance. I'm getting 12-1, which is just a monster situation. Anytime you get a double-digit horse, you can make a lot of money. I'm going to take shots with double-digit horses throughout this as many times as I possibly can. And when I was deciding between Best Performance and significant form, I went with Best Performance because of that. I like the number, 12-1. First-time Lasix, Ortiz Clement is a good combo with 6 wide. I think she's got a really good shot. But she's going to have to get past significant form. I also like Best Performance's spot. A lot of people don't like the rail, but for a horse that's just going to sit back and stalk the pace, I think it's a really nice spot to be in. So I really like that. And I think that significant form, the 8 horse, ridden by Irad Ortiz with Chad Brown as the trainer, is going to have more difficulty in 8 spot. She's going to have to be moving right away. She's going to have to find herself in a good position, or she'll have to run it all the way outside. If Capla Temptress or Orbelution or Ultima D, if these horses all run at the same pace right off the top, then she's going to go so wide off the turn. She could go so wide around that first turn that she will lose the race. I don't need to worry about that with Best Performance. Significant form is a really good horse. Again, I know some experts that are taking her to win this race. Great tactical speed. She's going to be at a great price. I know why people would take her at 8-1. The only other horse I'm going to bring up in this race, because the other ones I don't think have a chance, is Orbelution, only because her dad won the Kentucky Derby, and I won a lot of money on that race. It was one of my first big hits 4 or 5 years ago, and I went to the Derby. It was my first time going to the Derby, and it was a muddy day. And her dad, Orb, came from 17th or 18th place, and it was amazing because it was Orb's last win. But Orb won, and I believe the horse that came second was Golden Soul, because I had Orb to the field and the field to Orb, and if Golden Soul, the second longest shot on the field, had it just passed her, it would have been, like a $7,000 or $8,000, $10,000 win. Even the way it was, I had extra cash on Orb across the board as well. It was a wonderful spot to be in. It was a real rainy day at Kentucky Derby, and just, man, drinking mint juleps and being at Churchill Downs was one of my greatest memories ever. And now hitting with Orb's dad. But I don't think Orb has any chance. I think her best performance is just, she's no match for even significant form is going to be right beside her. But I did write her down for notes. So that is my situation with the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. I like best performance, the one horse, with Jose Ortiz in the reins. I think this is a great spot. 12-1 morning line. We'll see what she ends up at, but I think this is a real good spot. First time Lasix. I'm going to go with best performance. Now, I might tie her up with Happily. I also might tie her up with significant form. I might tie her up with Capla Temptress, who I'm very concerned of, but I'm, for whatever reason, not that concerned of Rushing Fall, but we saw that turn of foot is incredible. But you just don't want to take a favorite when you're dealing with 2-year-olds. Bam. That's the first race. Now, these juvenile races are just going to be harder to break down. They're going to take more time because they're 2-year-old horses, and there's a fucking ton of them. So don't be alarmed at the amount of time it took to break down the 6th race. Some of these races will go faster than others. Now we have the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. And man, am I excited about this race. As I said earlier, usually we don't have stars, huge stars in this race, and we have them here. Huge stars. Battle of Midway was 3rd in the Kentucky Derby this year. Huge star. Accelerate won the San Diego Handicap this year. She beat Arrowgate in that race, and then lost to Arrowgate right after in the Pacific Classic, the Grade 1. Look at the buyers here. So we're looking at 79 and 80 buyers. Accelerate's just run 110 and 109. That's a big deal. That's a big deal when you look at these other horses who haven't, I mean, you can't really compare 2-year-olds to older horses, but man, these are big lines. So let's go through it. First off, the favorite in this race is a horse called More Spirit, Bob Baffert horse. She just ran a Met Mile that was an absolute masterpiece. It was easily the fastest race of her career, of his career, and he beat Sharp Azteca by 6 1/4 lengths. And Sharp Azteca is the 3 horse in this race. Will be going off at 9-2. Will be going right to the pace, and is a good horse who's never run at Del Mar before, and that could hurt him. But a very good horse. More Spirit has never ran here either. And the big question, so look at this buyer that the More Spirit just ran in that Metropolitan Mile, 117. I mean, that's just fucking out of control. That's just alarmingly fast. But that was 146 days ago. Now people expect him to do the same thing on a track he's never run on before? No. Yes, he's a perfect 3 for 3 at this distance, but I just think this is another opportunity where we can stay away from the favorite and find somebody to beat him. Next favorite at 7-2 is Accelerate, who we just talked about. Just ran back-to-back big figures, which we showed you, 109 and 110 on this track. That's why Accelerate, I think, will be bet down to become the favorite. It was here at Del Mar where she had those huge numbers. That is a huge deal. She loves Del Mar. She's 2 for 2 at the mile here at this track. That's dangerous. He's a very dangerous horse. He placed 3rd in this race last year at 42-1. Accelerate's had a big year and is a much improved horse. That's why it's 7-2. And this year's Dirt Mile is a much tougher race than last year's. So those are the big favorites. And then the next one, too, is Sharp Azteca, who we talked about. That's who More Spirit beat by 6 1/3. Has also won back-to-back races since losing to More Spirit and will take the lead. This race will have a fast pace. Now, the big issue with this 1-mile race, and we touched a little bit on it in the beginning, is that it's a mile long, but it's 2 turns. 2 turns, which is something that my horse that I want to bet on to win this race, Practical Joke, has never succeeded in. Practical Joke has never won a 2-turn race, but has never lost a 1-turn mile. Undefeated at 1 turn, and never won on 2 turns. And that's uncomforting. But Practical Joke is a 3-year-old horse who's getting better and better. Practical Joke was in the Juvenile Dirt last year here. Not here, but in the Breeders' Cup. And he looked good. He came third by 7 3/4, losing to Classic Empire. Not this time. Was jostled 5-4 wide. Then Practical Joke ran in the Kentucky Derby. Now that's too far for him. We have learned that Practical Joke's limit is 1 mile. In the Kentucky Derby, he looked pretty good. Remember, the track was muddy, and he was only 5 lengths back, and then near the mile mark was only 3.5 lengths back, but then it just became too much. Practical Joke came 5th in the Kentucky Derby, which was a sign of the class, which was a sign of how good this horse is. Then it got better. It finally ran in a 1 mile race at Belmont in the Grade 3 Dwyer and looked amazing. 101 buyer, 4-4-4 first. This horse is going to stalk the pace and fucking pounce. That's why I think the outside post isn't going to hurt him that much. A lot of people on SBR Forum was like, the outside post is going to crush him. These horses that are comfortable with Del Mar are going to win this race, meaning Accelerate and Sharp Azteca. But Practical Joke, look at this run, this last race. 7 furlongs, 7 lengths back, 5 lengths back, and then 1 at 1.25 miles. And I had Practical Joke in that race. I had him to beat American Anthem, and he did it with ease. I really like Practical Joke. Now, I know that 2 turns is a problem. It's worried all of us. Chad Brown is Practical Joke's trainer, said, I'd be much more confident if this race was around 1 turn. Unbeaten in 5 starts at 1 turn, winless in 5 starts at 2 turns. Sure, that's immensely important. But a fast pace really helps Practical Joke, and Sharp Azteca is going to guarantee that to happen. Now, another issue is this will be Practical Joke's first time against older horses. That's a problem. That's tough. But I think this horse is blossoming right now. I think this horse is coming into his own right now, and that's why I'm taking Practical Joke at 10-1 to win the Dirt Mile. Let's talk about a few other horses and move on. There's 5, Awesome Slew, comes from off the pace. The faster the pace, the better his chances, much like Practical Joke. He will always give you a nice run. He's going to give you a crooked number at 12-1. He lost to More Spirit by 10 lengths in that Met Mile, but that was just a ridiculous race. Then we have the 7, Cupid, at 8-1. He won the Grade 1 Gold Cup, but I think it was against a weak field. You'll get Cupid at a great price, but he did not look good as a favorite in the Awesome Again. That was his last race. Then we have the 9 horse, which is quite an interesting horse, Battle of Midway. He was 3rd in the Kentucky Derby, and we think he could benefit moving back to a mile. Ran the best race of his career here, 2 back, and that was his first race using blinkers. You're going to get a nice number on Battle of Midway. 10-1, Hollendorfer the trainer, Pratt the jockey, has looked very good since he donned blinkers. The first was in the Shared Belief here at Del Mar, 100K race. He won by 6 lengths and a quarter, was not the favorite. And then he won the Derby here at, where was it? The Oklahoma Derby. The Oklahoma Derby, which was a Grade 3, and he came 2nd. By a length and 3/4, and he was the favorite. Lost 1 trap that day. I think Battle Midway could be an issue, but I like Practical Joke. So my picks on that are, I like Practical Joke to win. I'm going to time with Accelerate in the Exactor box. I like both those horses a lot. Obviously, I think More Spirit could be around, and I think Sharp Azteca could be around, as well as Battle of Midway. That is the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, Grade 1, right there in the books. We have 2 more races. Let's see if we can get through this, because I know it's been a long video. This is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Now, this is a much easier race for me to get away from the favorite. The big favorite here, Massar, lost to Happily quite badly, but is a first-time Lasix user, which will help. Let me break down why I'm going to be able to get away from him at 6-1. Yes, it's a Godolphin horse, which is always dangerous. They own a wonderful group of horses. It's in good shape, 3rd last out in a Grade 1, but it's just a consistent, good horse, and who knows what's going to happen over on our turf. So we're going to break down the European horses and then move to the North American ones. Mendelssohn is starting on the 1 spot. It's another O'Brien-Moore mix, and that's an extremely dangerous combination. Mendelssohn preferred the Juvenile on dirt, but couldn't get in. He's by Scat Daddy, and he's a half-brother to the Great Beholder. Improved last out with the addition of blinkers. His sibling Into Mischief is a Grade 1 winner, 2nd to U.S. Navy Flag last out in the Grade 1. He was kind of a horse that needs more experience. He's often on the wrong lead. He drifts in the stretch. He can still improve. I'm going to stay away from him. If you're looking for a big long shot, but the horse I like has got a nice crooked number, but a big long shot is Sands of Mali here, the 3 horse at 30 to 1. The reason why he's going to be a big long shot is because he completely fell apart last race. The race at U.S. Navy Flag won, completely fell apart. He was supposed to be one of the favorites, went off at 4.5 to 1 and got destroyed and showed nothing. And there, you can give a horse an excuse. You can find a horse an excuse for the horse, and then because if you can give that horse an excuse, there wasn't really one that we could find. He just never seriously threatened. But now you're getting 30 to 1, where if he had continued, because he just won a big race, a grade 2, just won a big race in Europe, a grade 2, and if he was coming into this race after that, he'd be a 7 or 8 to 1. So if you want a huge long shot, you don't need him, because I've got a really good horse in this race. Okay, so we'll move on. So we have Beckford. Beckford's been the beaten chalk in 3 straight races. I know that Dan Allman likes this horse to win this race. I was surprised. It has a sprint pedigree. He's stretching out for the first time. I think that's going to be a problem. When you're the beaten chalk 3 times in a row, that's a problem. I see problems here. I'm going to leave Beckford out at 8 to 1. Then there's James Garfield at 6 to 1. Mike Beer likes this horse to win it. James Garfield looked very good in the Grade 2 Mill Reef Stakes. Will not be intimidated by the size of this field, because some horses will. He placed 3rd in a 5-furlong race with 22 entrants a few races back. Got Frankie Dettori on him. Frankie Dettori's a great jockey. James Garfield's going to be very difficult. 6 to 1 is the co-favorite with Massar. Then there's Untamed Domain, another European horse, won the Grade 2 Summer Stakes last out. Seems to like the distance. The trip will be key. Oh, excuse me, sorry. The Untamed Domain is not a European horse. We're now getting into North American horses. Jose Ortiz is on him. Graham Motion is the trainer. This is a Hall of Fame combination. And Untamed Domain looked very good. Beat Hemp Hemp Hooray in the last race by a neck. Hemp Hemp Hooray is in this race. Untamed Domain is at 8 to 1. Then we have, we'll go over Hemp Hemp Hooray, who's at 8 to 1 as well. So both Untamed Domain and Hemp Hemp Hooray are 8 to 1. And they were both in the summer stakes against each other. Hemp Hemp Hooray will be forwardly placed, but distance and coming out of the 12th spot, the post, is a concern. The 13 horse, My Boy Jack, is trained and ridden by the DeSormo brothers. They're a good combination. I watched this team win in person in the Juvenile in 2014 with Texas Red. And My Boy Jack is a late runner. He's had a fast pace to run into every single race that he's had, and that's what he needs. That's the only way My Boy Jack is going to be able to win, is if there's a very fast pace. He's never raced against horses of this quality, but if My Boy Jack was in a better spot, I would take him. You can see that My Boy Jack has lost to Encumbered twice. Now, just by little bits, by 3/4 of a length and half a length, but Encumbered is the horse I like. My Boy Jack's at 8 to 1. Encumbered is at 15 to 1. I think we're getting a nice spot with Encumbered, and we'll talk about him in a second. There is another good horse at the 4th spot, and a nice spot, named Catholic Boy. Professional runner, 2 for 2, handles traffic well, will have a nice price. He's right here. He's only run 2 races in his life, won them both. Going to be a dangerous horse, but I don't like him the most. The horse I like the most is Encumbered, the 9 horse. My favorite jockey's on him. Obviously, that helps. Mario Gutierrez, Super Mario. But the reason why we're getting Encumbered at such a good spot, again, is he had this terrible race in the front runner, the Grade 1, lost by 24.5 lengths. We can put a line right through that because that was on dirt. He's a turf horse. He likes the turf. He won back-to-back miles on the turf here, back-to-back with a 70 buyer and then a 79 buyer. Beat My Boy Jack in both of them. Then they tried him on the dirt and it didn't work. People who don't understand, there's going to be a lot of people betting on the Breeders' Cup who don't understand the importance of turf and dirt. There's going to be a lot of newbies at the track who see that 6th by 24.5 lengths with a 61 buyer and think, oh, that horse is shit. That's why we're going to get a juicy number on Encumbered at 15 to 1. That's a great number. It's the kind of number that makes you fucking rich. Next horse is Voting Control. J.J. Castellano, Chad Brown mix. Was a half length from being 2 and 2. Had trouble last out. Is at 8 to 1. Is a very good horse. Only run twice. J.J. Castellano is an incredible jockey, and we know how good Chad Brown is a trainer. This is a good horse. The 8, Voting Control, is a good horse. But I really like Encumbered. I really like this last race. He's 5th by 5.5 lengths, 5th by 10 lengths, 5th by 5.5 lengths, and then he turns it on. And that's what I need. I need them to let the speed horses create a really fast pace and then turn it on. Now, there's a guy that I run with and love handicapping horses named Victor Salazar. He's a friend of SBR's, and we love working with him, handicapping all sports with him. He's at Del Mar as we speak, and he likes Snapper Sinclair. When I looked at Snapper Sinclair, I saw distance concerns, but Vic says that he's got buddies that think this might be the next great turf horse in America. You're getting 15 to 1. Steve Asmussen is the trainer. Santana is the jockey. This is a really interesting spot. As soon as I heard Vic liking him, I was like, oh shit, did I miss something? So there's another huge long shot that a friend of SBR's likes, Snapper Sinclair. And those are the horses. So for me, I got the 9. I like the 9 encumbered best. I like the 7 James Garfield second. I'm going to tie them together in exacta box and take encumbered alone. I also like the 4 Catholic Boy that you're getting 12 to 1. I like the 6 Massar. I think he'll be around. And then I like the 3 Sands of Mali at 30 to 1. If you want a giant long shot, take Sands of Mali at 30 to 1. But you don't have to, because my favorite horse is at 15 to 1, and that's going to give you a whole shitload of money. Okay, finally, this Breeders' Cup Distaff, the championship race for female horses in the world. This is so extremely exciting. We have huge horses here. Now, Elate, the 5 horse, is the hottest horse in the world being talked about. Everybody is talking about Elate, this 3-year-old filly. Man, do they love her. They say she's trained. Everybody's talking about Elate. And we see how often the public is wrong when we gamble, but there's reasons why they love Elate so much. Why don't we go over her first? But I don't think she'll end up the favorite. I think Stellar Wind, who's been a champion for a long time, 5 years old, will be the favorite. She lost this race in 2015 by a neck. Then she lost this race in 2016 by 3 3/4 to Beholder. Songbird was in that race, who's a champion. Forever Unbridled, who's in this race, came 3rd. But I like Stellar Wind. I think she's an incredible horse, but I think Elate might be ready to beat her. Let's talk about Elate a little bit. Elate is starting to come into her enormous potential. Bill Mott, the trainer, has won this race 5 times. She just went against older horses. Now, not the best older horses, although it was a grade 1, and she looked dominant against them last out in the grade 1 Beldame, winning by 8 lengths. All anybody's talking about is Elate. Let's see why. She ran the 98 and the 97 Bear. In the Alabama grade 1, she won by 5.5 lengths, and then in the next race, the Beldame, she won by 8 1/4. Now, 3 races ago, she lost to Abel Tasman. I just watched that race twice, about half an hour ago, to see what happened. And Abel Tasman didn't really have an excuse. She was in tight for too long, clearly in tight for too long, and Abel Tasman got outside and got in a comfortable run. But Elate was still coming at the end. Elate was still coming at Abel Tasman. Abel Tasman is in this race and is a very good horse. Is at 4 to 1 with Mike Smith on her. Abel Tasman won the Kentucky Oaks and is a quality horse. Look at that. I mean, 92, 99, 92, 95 buyers. Second, first, second. Mike Smith is a Hall of Fame jockey. Bob Baffert's a Hall of Fame trainer. Let's go over Abel Tasman. She clearly benefited from Unique Bella getting hurt. You will see Unique Bella tomorrow. Unique Bella might be... Mike Beer said that she's going to be better than Songbird. She's extremely fast, extremely talented 3-year-old. In 5 giant grade 1 races, Abel Tasman won 3 and came second twice. Is she showing fatigue is a question. And she needs Mike Smith to time the run properly, because she usually only makes 1 run. Why don't we go down in order? We have Champagne Room first at 15 to 1. My dad had her last year to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile at 33 to 1. I just think Champagne Room is out of her league today. She's got Mario riding. I just think that she's out of the league. Then we have Stellar Wind, the champion, with Victor Espinoza in the reins, John Sadler training. Stellar Wind is 3 for 3 this year, 3 for 3 at Del Mar. She's been off for 3 months, but she likes time off between races. Espinosa has to keep her focused. She loses her focus sometimes in racing, so she almost needs to be a little bit behind the horse to stay focused at what she's doing. The 3 horses, Mopetism, a tough 3-year-old filly, is going to be 31 out of her league. We've talked about Abel Tasman, we've talked about Elate. Then there's Forever Unbridled. Has run twice this year, and we're not sure why she's only run twice. She's won both races. She fits very well in here. Looked very good running down a loose on the lead Songbird in her last race. She is a very, very good horse. Velasquez in the reins. Stuart Dallas training. Forever Unbridled is going to be very tough to beat. Then the 7, a very interesting horse, Paradise Woods. When she gets the lead by herself and she's not challenged, she will win. And when she's challenged, she seems to buckle. She's a young 3-year-old horse, and she seems not to handle it well. She's only 9-2 because we know she's going to go right to the front. Look what she did in the Zenyatta. Ran 105 by her, wasn't even challenged at all, and just won easily. Someone has to challenge her. And we have horses that will do that. Abel Tasman might have to do that. Stellar Wind might have to do that. Champagne Room will try to go to the lead. So we have horses that will do it. And then finally we have Romantic Vision, who is out of her league in this match. A good 5-year-old mare, but is just out of her league in this match. So this is the championship race for female. Now I'm going to go with a late. But I think Stellar Wind is going to be a huge issue. And I think Forever Unbridled is going to be a huge issue. Abel Tasman is going to be there. It's going to be, this is one of the most skilled distaffs I've ever seen in my life, maybe the most skilled. These are huge, huge horses, and it's going to be extremely exciting. Those are my picks for Championship Friday. We're going to start winning. We're going to go live. I'm going to show my money going up and down, or hopefully just up. But we're going to try to make a huge score this weekend. I couldn't be more excited. We are going live at 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific. I hope you join us, and I hope we get fucking rich. Fucking rich. Leche, Elos bookmakers. Let's get that cash.